Okay, my name is Stephanie Reynolds, and this is my lesson plan for grade 10, and the subject is life science. And we'll start with my learning objectives. My Common Core standard I have chosen is literacy, and it's 10.3, and the Common Core standard reads that students will follow precisely a complex multi-step procedure when carrying out experiments, taking measurements, or performing technical tasks, attending to special cases or exceptions defined in the text. And the objective for my lesson will be that students will be able to demonstrate multi-step process of preparing, collecting, and recording data while identifying different stages of mitosis during an onion root observation lab. And the reason I've chosen this objective is because it will be the base knowledge for connecting to the next step in the unit to move forward in, and it's also a foundation skill that will be needed in higher education. And we'll move on to my student grouping. And I have decided to start my lesson in a whole group instruction. And after a whole group instruction, I'll let the students divide up into their lab partner groups. And these groups are determined at the beginning of the school year, so they will know who their partners are in this. And the groups are based off academic skill and social skills, and it'll be a combination of a high academic to a low academic. And at the end of that, the class will stay in their groups, but we will do another class discussion about the findings during the lab. And the reason I have decided to start with a whole group discussion is because I want to read through the lab instructions and make sure there is no misunderstandings of what is expected of each group. And I'd also like to do a brief review of the stages of mitosis to kind of refresh their memory about what was just taught so they understand what they will be looking for. After the class discussion, students will divide up into their lab partner groups, and these are usually around 2 to 3 students. And these groups are formed, like I said, at the beginning of the school year, and they're chosen to be paired with different academic and social skills together. And this will allow me to allow students to perform in a different setting than they normally would with their friends. It'll kind of mix it up and really allow them to push themselves, and it'll also allow me to better assess their skills. And lastly, they'll stay in their groups, but we'll return back to a group discussion, and we'll talk about the lab. We'll let them compare their findings to the other groups, and we'll talk about any problems that they may have had, and we'll figure out solutions for any of them. And we'll move on to my methods now. And I've chosen to use a mixture of a lot of methods, and it'll be small groups, hands-on, class discussion, lecture, and a report back session. And I'll begin the lesson with a lecture, and that'll be the review of the information needed for the onion lab, and then we'll move on to the class discussion of the steps and processes that they'll be completing, so I know that they are clear on what they need to do and there's no confusion. After that, I'll let the students split up into their small groups, and they'll do a hands-on work during the lab, and this will be preparing slides and reading through the instructions. And during this time, I'll be able to walk around and assess the students, and they'll work within their assigned groups to complete these procedures and complete the multi-step experience. And I'll help them in each group if they have any problems. I can evaluate their ability and watch their progress through the steps to see which groups are struggling to get past certain steps, which ones have made it through. And then we'll come back to a class discussion, but in our small groups. That way each group can compare what they have found, and it'll help them compare and contrast different data that was found in the lab. And the reason for choosing to begin with the class discussion is because I want to refresh their skills from the previous lesson, and I also want to make sure there is no misunderstanding with the instructions of the lab. And then the reason for the small groups and the hands-on is so that the students will be able to demonstrate their ability to follow the multi-step instruction, and that's stated in the Common Core that they need to be able to precisely follow a complex multi-step experiment and record data. And this will also let me evaluate their individual groups and their ability to follow each step. The last method, the report back session, this is to help the students. This is so they can see what other students have found and see what other struggles, and maybe another group can explain what, maybe group A is having problems with step 3 and group B can explain to them in a better way that they can get past that. And we'll compare and contrast the data that was found, and we'll move past any problems that we have, and it'll help students leave the class with a better understanding of everything. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.